Listen to me right now in this moment. Because this moment can be the moment everything begins to change. You were not born to wake up, check your phone, drag yourself through the day, and wonder where your fire went. You were born with potential that could shake the ground. And the only thing standing between you and the life you deserve is the standard you've been willing to settle for. So let's get one thing straight. Your life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by decision. What decision? The decision to demand more from yourself than anyone else could ever expect. The decision to stop negotiating with your excuses. The decision to say, I will no longer live on autopilot. I will no longer let fear choose my future. I will no longer let comfort steal my greatness. Because hear this, comfort is a liar. Comfort tells you you're fine. Comfort tells you you can do it tomorrow. Comfort tells you to wait until you're ready. Let me tell you something. You'll never feel fully ready. You create readiness through action. Action breeds clarity. Action builds confidence. Action creates momentum. So what are you waiting for? Start acting like the life you want is already yours. Because when you change your standards, you change your behavior. And when you change your behavior consistently, you change your life. It doesn't take a miracle. It doesn't take permission. It doesn't take perfection. It takes a shift in identity. Say this to yourself every single morning. I am no longer who I used to be. I am the architect of my destiny. I am relentless. I am driven. I'm unstoppable. You don't need more motivation. You need a mission. You need a reason so powerful that giving up is not an option. Ask yourself, what do I want my life to stand for? Because your life is not measured by your bank account. It's measured by your impact, by the moments you chose courage over fear, discipline over distraction, faith over failure. Let today be the day you stop trying and start committing. Let today be the day you burn the boats. No backup plan, no retreat, just forward. Not someday, not later, now. You have a force inside of you that is greater than any challenge you face. Tap into it, feed it, fight for it. Because when you live fully, love deeply, give generously, and grow constantly, that's when your life transforms. You were not made to be average. You were made to rise. So rise every single day. Your life changes the moment you raise your standards. This is the beginning of all lasting transformation. Not when you get more resources. Not when someone gives you a handout. Not when the economy improves. Or when you feel ready. Real change happens in the instant you decide, this is no longer acceptable, this is not who I am, this is not what I tolerate in my life anymore. That decision to raise what you expect of yourself is what separates the ones who live powerfully from those who live passively. We've been conditioned to believe that change is this long, drawn-out process. But in reality, change happens in a moment. What takes time is aligning your habits, actions, and mindset with that new standard you've decided on. The internal shift, though, the fire that starts it all, that happens in a flash. It happens when you say, enough. I will not live like this anymore. When you make that decision with absolute certainty, everything begins to reorganize around it. Most people never change their life because they never change their standards. They tolerate mediocrity. They settle. Not because they don't want more, but because they've gotten used to less. They've become emotionally numb to the pain of staying the same. And the truth is, human beings will only change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. But why wait until it hurts? Why wait for rock bottom? Why not decide now? Before you're forced to. You have to understand that your standards are shaping every part of your life, whether you realize it or not. What do you expect from your body? What do you expect from your relationships? Your finances? Your time? Your focus? Your energy? Whatever you're experiencing in those areas right now is a direct reflection of the standards you've either consciously chosen or unconsciously accepted. The people who excel, the ones we admire, they're not lucky. They just refuse to settle for anything less than their vision demands. They've conditioned themselves to demand more, and that demand pulls them into action. When you raise your standards, you immediately start to filter life through a different lens. You no longer look at problems the same way. You no longer accept excuses, especially your own. Your old story, that voice in your head that says this is just how it is, begins to lose power because now you're living by a new code. And here's the key. You must back up your new standard with a ritual, with daily habits, with discipline. Raising the standard is not about hype, it's about consistency. Anyone can get motivated for a day. But when you raise your standards, you change what you do, not just what you say. Think about it. If your standard is to be in peak physical condition, then skipping workouts is not even an option. If your standard is financial freedom, then wasting money or time becomes a violation of your values. If your standard is emotional strength, then blaming others, complaining, or playing small goes against your identity. That's the power of new standards. They shift your behavior because they shift who you believe you are. You don't get what you want, you get what you must have. Most people want success. Most people want more energy, better health, stronger relationships, more freedom. But they want it like a wish, not like a necessity. It's not until that want becomes a must that anything truly changes. And turning a want into a must is exactly what happens when you raise your standards. You draw a line in the sand. You say, this is who I am now. This is what I accept. This is what I refuse to tolerate from myself or from anyone else. Raising your standards also changes the people you attract and allow into your life. You stop giving energy to those who drain you. You stop tolerating relationships built on convenience and start seeking connection built on mutual growth. People will feel your energy shift. They'll either rise with you or fall away. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Because when you raise your standards, you raise your vibration. And when you raise your vibration, your world begins to match it. This doesn't mean you become perfect. It means you become committed. Committed to your values. Committed to your growth. Committed to showing up differently. Because now, the old way is not acceptable. Now, the standard is excellence. The standard is ownership. The standard is transformation. Comfort is the enemy of growth. It whispers sweet lies in your ear, telling you that you're fine where you are, that you don't need to push harder, that tomorrow is a better time to start. It wraps you in a warm blanket of excuses and justifications, numbing your hunger for more. And the most dangerous part, it feels good, it feels safe, but safety, when it becomes your default, is the fastest way to stagnation. Every breakthrough in your life, every true leap forward comes from a place of discomfort. Think back to any defining moment you've had. Was it easy? Was it comfortable? Or did it require you to face fear, risk failure, and step into the unknown? Growth demands discomfort because you're reaching beyond what you already know. You're stretching the limits of your identity. And that stretch hurts. But that pain, it's a signal you're on the edge of something greater. Most people avoid discomfort like the plague. They avoid hard conversations, challenging workouts, the risk of starting something new. And they disguise it with logic. It's not the right time, I'm too tired, I'm waiting until things settle down. But all of that is just the comfort zone protecting its territory. Your brain is hardwired to keep you safe, not to keep you growing. It wants familiarity, predictability, the known. But your soul wants expansion. It wants evolution. And the only way to bridge the two is to get uncomfortable on purpose. Discomfort isn't punishment, it's the price of admission to a better life. It's a teacher. It's a mirror. It shows you where your edges are. It reveals your patterns. It makes you face who you really are when things don't go according to plan. Because it's easy to feel strong when everything's going your way. But real growth is forged in adversity. When the pressure's on, when your back is against the wall, when quitting would be easier than continuing, that's when your character is built. Look at nature. Trees grow stronger, not in perfect weather, but when the wind forces them to develop deeper roots. Muscles grow by tearing and rebuilding. Diamonds are formed under pressure. You are no different. The challenge is not your enemy. The pain is not your punishment. It's your preparation. But only if you lean into it. Only if you stop running from it. Comfort convinces you that staying the same is safer than change. But here's the truth. Staying the same is the most dangerous choice of all, because nothing in life stays still. You're either growing or decaying. You're either evolving or eroding. When you stop stretching, you start shrinking. And the cost of that comfort is your potential. It's your fire. It's your ability to live a life that excites you rather than one that simply sustains you. Discomfort builds resilience. It forces adaptation. It rewires your nervous system for strength instead of agility. Every time you face discomfort and keep going, you tell your brain a new story. I can handle this. And that belief, repeated enough times, becomes identity. The person who avoids discomfort becomes fragile. A person who chases it becomes unstoppable. The ones who succeed at the highest level are not the most talented. They're the ones most willing to endure discomfort consistently. They're willing to look foolish. They're willing to fail. They're willing to do what's hard while others are waiting for it to be easy, because they understand that growth is a daily practice of stepping into resistance, not retreating from it. Discomfort is also the gateway to authenticity. When you stop trying to impress others, when you stop molding yourself to fit in, when you strip away the masks and show up as you truly are, that's uncomfortable, but it's also liberating, because you stop performing and start being. And in that space, the real work begins. The work of building something lasting, something meaningful, something that isn't dependent on external approval. It's not about chasing pain for the sake of it. It's about choosing discomfort that has purpose, the kind that stretches you, molds you, sharpens you. It's getting up early when you don't feel like it. It's having that conversation you've been avoiding. It's taking the first step even when you're unsure. That discomfort is a compass. It points you to the areas of your life that are ready for transformation. Most people want change without challenge. They want results without resistance. But that's not how this works. The challenge is the path. The resistance is the sign you're moving in the right direction. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you gain the power to grow at will. The discomfort becomes familiar. You stop fearing it, and you start using it. You learn to dance with it. And through that, you unlock a version of yourself that comfort could never reveal. Action creates clarity, confidence, and momentum. It's the antidote to overthinking, to fear, to doubt. So many people are stuck because they're waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect time, or the perfect feeling to begin. But clarity does not come from thinking your way through 1,000 scenarios. It comes from doing, from stepping into motion, even when you're uncertain, especially when you're uncertain, because movement reveals what stillness cannot. You don't figure everything out by sitting around analyzing. Life isn't a math problem to be solved on paper. It's an experience that unfolds through engagement. When you act, you get feedback. You discover what works and what doesn't. You get real-time data from reality, not theory. And that feedback gives you clarity. You realize this path feels right, or that strategy didn't work, or this challenge is exactly what I needed. You can't think your way into those insights. You have to earn them by moving. People often believe they need to be confident before they take action, but that's backwards. Confidence is a byproduct of action. You gain it by doing, by showing yourself what you're capable of. Every time you act, no matter how small, you cast a vote for the kind of person you want to become, and those votes add up. You begin to trust yourself. You start believing in your ability to figure things out. And that belief, that self-trust, is what real confidence is made of. Momentum is a force that multiplies results, and it can only be built through consistent action. Think about a train sitting on the tracks. Even a small block can stop it from moving if it's at rest. But once that train is in motion, it can blast through barriers that once seemed unmovable. That's what momentum does for you. It turns effort into acceleration. It makes hard things feel easier because you're in rhythm, in flow, in forward. But you only get there by starting. You don't wait for momentum. You create it. Starting is hard. The mind will throw up every excuse, every distraction, every reason to delay. It's safer not to begin. But the moment you take that first step, you break inertia. You shift your internal chemistry. The fear may still be there, but now you're moving in spite of it. That's power. That's courage. Action doesn't always eliminate fear, but it robs it of control. It puts you in charge. It gives you leverage. There's a simple truth most people overlook. You don't need to know the whole path to take the first step. The way forward reveals itself through movement. You don't need a 100-page plan. You don't need everything to be perfect. You need to act. Progress is not about knowing it all. It's about being willing to learn along the way, to stumble, to adapt, to evolve. And none of that happens unless you're in motion. Action cuts through noise. It silences the inner critic, even if just for a moment. That voice that says you're not ready, not good enough, not smart enough. It grows weaker when you take bold steps because now you're building evidence against it. You're proving to yourself through behavior that you're capable. You're not just dreaming, you're building. You're not just hoping, you're doing. That shift changes everything. People often ask, what if I fail? But the better question is, what if I never try? Because the cost of inaction is often invisible. It's the dreams you bury, the potential you never tap into, the regret that shows up later when the chance has passed. Action protects you from that kind of regret. Even when you fail, you grow. Even when you fall short, you're further along than you were before. There is no wasted effort if it's done with intention. Taking action is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. Small steps in the right direction beat massive plans that go nowhere. One phone call, one workout, one honest conversation, 1 hour of focus. That's how transformation starts. Not with some grand gesture, but with the courage to begin. Consistency beats intensity every time. And when you act consistently, the compound effect kicks in. Days turn into weeks, habits form, beliefs shift, outcomes change. When you're stuck in your head, take one small action. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be right. It just has to move you. Because movement creates a pattern. It signals to your nervous system that you are not frozen. You are not helpless. You are alive, engaged in the game. You take action, and suddenly you can see a little further. You act again, and confidence grows. You keep going, and the momentum becomes unstoppable. That's how you change your direction. That's how you change your life. Identity shift is the foundation of lasting transformation. No matter how many goals you set, how many strategies you follow, how many habits you try to force, none of it will last if your identity doesn't change to support it. People don't behave in ways that are inconsistent with who they believe they are. Your actions always come back to your self-permit, to the story you're telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. You can try to change your behavior, but if deep down you still see yourself as someone who's lazy, unworthy, inconsistent, or broken, you will always find a way to sabotage progress and return to your old patterns. Lasting change doesn't happen at the level of environment, behavior, or even capability. It happens at the level of identity. You become the kind of person who does the things you want to do, not by force, but by alignment. You don't try to eat healthy, you become someone who doesn't compromise on health. You don't try to show up with confidence, you become the kind of person who leads with presence and certainty. You don't force discipline every day, you become someone for whom discipline is normal. The goal is not to act differently, the goal is to become different. The power of identity is that it drives your decisions without effort. When something becomes part of who you are, you don't have to rely on motivation. You don't negotiate with yourself. You don't need willpower to brush your teeth every morning because it's part of your identity. Imagine if success, health, leadership, discipline, or courage were as automatic as brushing your teeth. That's possible when you shift the foundation of how you see yourself. And that shift starts with conscious, deliberate decision-making. You choose the identity before the evidence shows up. You begin by declaring, this is who I am now. Not someday. Not after you lose the weight. Not after you make the money. Not after you prove it. Now you declare it before the world agrees, before the results appear. Because identity isn't built on external validation. It's built from internal conviction. The evidence will come, the results will catch up, but only if you act from that new identity long enough for it to become natural. The challenge is that your current identity has momentum. It's been shaped over years by repetition, by reinforcement, by environment, and by emotion. Every time you acted a certain way, told yourself a specific story, or responded from fear instead of power, you were reinforcing that old identity. So when you try to change, the old wiring will fight back. You'll hear that voice saying, who are you to do this? This isn't like you. This won't last. That's not a sign you're failing. That's a sign you're on the edge of transformation. You overcome the old identity not by arguing with it, but by proving it wrong through action. You don't need to believe you're the new version of yourself 100% yet. You only need enough belief to take the next step. You only need to act as if you were already confident, as if you were already disciplined, as if you were already powerful. Every time you do, you cast a vote for the new identity. And eventually those votes add up. You don't just act differently, you are different. Most people try to use behavior to create change, but they keep their identity the same. That's why they burn out. They go to the gym for a few weeks, then fall off. They set goals, make plans, start strong, and then default back. It's not because they're weak or lazy. It's because they're trying to build a life that doesn't match who they think they are. You can't outperform your identity for long. You'll always return to what feels familiar. So if you want new behavior to last, you must make it part of who you are. You do that through language, repetition, and environment. You start speaking differently about yourself. You stop saying, I'm trying to be consistent, and start saying, I am consistent. You reinforce the new story with rituals, daily actions that align with your new identity. And you surround yourself with people who reflect back the version of you that you're stepping into, because identity is shaped socially as well. When you're around others who expect greatness from you, you begin to expect it from yourself. Change becomes sustainable when it's not a chore, but a reflection of your character. When the hard things feel natural because they're in alignment with who you are becoming. You no longer have to force your behavior because your new identity demands it. And once that shift takes hold, transformation is no longer temporary. It becomes your new baseline. Not something you do occasionally, something you are consistently. Commit fully. Burn the boats, no retreat. The moment you give yourself the option to turn back, you weaken your resolve. You allow fear to whisper in your ear, convincing you that quitting is an option, that maybe it's too hard, that maybe you're not ready. But when you remove the escape plan, when you eliminate the safety net, you force yourself to rise. You force yourself to figure it out. And that level of commitment changes everything, not just in your results, but in who you become in the process. People fail not because they lack talent or resources, but because they leave too many doors open. They don't commit with full intensity. They dip their toe in, waiting to see if it works before going all in. But success doesn't work like that. Life doesn't reward the tentative. It rewards the bold. The ones who decide, this is it. This is happening. I'm not backing down. That mindset activates a different level of energy. It sharpens your focus. It multiplies your creativity. It ignites your resilience. When quitting is off the table, your brain stops looking for exits and starts finding solutions. You got to reach the place where doing what it takes is no longer optional. It's who you are. Half measures give you half-hearted results. You can't chase a dream with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You've got to cut off the possibility of failure by committing to adapt, to adjust, to push through no matter what. That doesn't mean the journey will be smooth. It means your decision to keep going is already made. So when obstacles show up, and they will, you face them as part of the path, not a reason to stop. The idea of burning the boats comes from war. Leaders who knew that if their soldiers had a way to escape, they might take it when the battle got hard. But if they had no choice but to fight, they gave everything they had. That intensity creates results most people never experience. Because when you remove plan B, plan A gets your full attention. Your effort becomes non-negotiable. You stop playing small. You stop playing scared. You show up with everything you've got because there's no other way. You can't grow with 1 foot on the brake. You can't create momentum if you're constantly second-guessing your decision. Full commitment is what separates those who talk about it from those who actually live it. When you're all in, you develop grit, you build endurance, you learn to lead yourself through pain, through doubt, through delay. That leadership comes from making a real decision. A decision backed by action, discipline, and the refusal to settle. There's a reason most people never see their full potential. It's not that they don't have it, it's that they never fully tap into it. And you can't tap into your highest self when you're still negotiating with your limitations. When you commit fully, you stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start demanding, how do I make it work? You take ownership. You become resourceful. You develop a mindset that says, no matter what happens, I'll figure it out. That's power, that's leadership, that's how you win. Full commitment is uncomfortable, it will stretch you, it will test you, it will bring out parts of you that you've never met before. That's the point. Because the only way to become who you're meant to be is to break through who you've been. You can't do that while playing it safe. Playing it safe might protect your ego, but it won't change your life. Playing it safe won't build the business. It won't transform your health. It won't heal the relationship. That requires risk. That requires vulnerability. That requires all of you. Decide now that you're not going to dabble. You're not going to wish or wait or wonder. You're going to act with finality. That means you don't entertain distractions. You don't allow excuses. You don't give your mind the luxury of wondering whether or not you should keep going. You move, you act, you adjust, but you never retreat. And from that place of no exit commitment, you gain access to levels of power and perseverance that others never touch. People will try to talk you out of it. They'll project their fear onto your decisions. They'll tell you to be more realistic, more careful, more balanced. But balance doesn't build empires. Playing it safe doesn't inspire change. The world has enough people trying to fit in. What it needs is people willing to go all in. People who don't just want it, but are willing to live it, breathe it, fight for it, become it. Not someday, right now, with no way out, with nothing left in reserve, with everything on the line